plenty of celebrations on that side of the pass. And they're away now, Manchester City. They've got a man over here, Nicholas Jensen to Berkovic. Gota's ahead of him. This is Sean Gota. Good chance for City. It's 2-0. Sean Gota scores, and it's well deserved. They've dominated the second half, Keegan's team, and the reward comes. Navia, still tricky, still inventive, gets it back from Gota. Player to his left is Huckabee. Oh, and now it's Marshall, and now it's Gota, and it's 3-1 City. Sean Gota gets his second goal.
Well, John, if anybody deserves a win away from home, it's yours. As the 2,000 fans travel from Manchester.
Oh, onside, Darren Huckabee's here. In for number 4, is he? Round the goalkeeper, Huckabee, goal! It's a thrashing now for Ipswich Town, and it's a really memorable night for Manchester City.
Dear Defenders, I've been reflecting on these last few years together.
Erling Haaland is a phenomenon.
Like any relationship, there's been ups and downs, highs and lows. That's natural. Yes, we had our battles, but you pushed me to be the best version of myself. And while things can get heated, we all need to let our hair down sometimes. Anyway, there's been a lot of rumors flying around recently. I get it. Sometimes you might not want me around. But I think we need each other. In other words, you complete me.
The trademark celebration.
So all I have to say is, sorry. I'm here to stay. Erling.
Hello and welcome to Matchday Live. It's a double header for Manchester City. Both the men's and the women's are in action today. We're here in Ipswich. I'm joined by Michael Brown and Dan, the owner of Portman Road's local pub, The Greyhound. You might recognise him from the game in August. We'll come to that in a moment. But of course, our women's team are in action at the Etihad this evening as well. So we've got an incredible show to come. Now, Dan, thank you so much for inviting us back. We saw you earlier on Matchday Live in August for a feature in a game at the Etihad. You mentioned there was a moment of that game that you really enjoyed as an Ipswich fan.
Yeah, it was amazing. 4 minutes going 1-0 up, and it was in dreamland. And then 4 minutes later, I think we were 3-1 down. The reality of the Premier League hit home fairly quick that day.
It seems like you're settling into Premier League life well. Liam Delap, a former Manchester City player, has been your man leading the line. And what have you made of him so far?
He's been outstanding all season. He's just such a handful for the defenders. Against Chelsea, he was unplayable. Some of the old boys come out to the pub say it's one of the best centre-forward performances they've ever seen down there, and that's including Paul Mariner days and stuff. You know, so he has been absolutely outstanding for us. The work rate's incredible.
What have you enjoyed most about this Premier League return?
I tell you what has surprised me is the quality of the average sides. We all thought we'd come up, we'll be all right, we'll be 5, 6 from the bottom. But the average side, like with Brighton away, they were outstanding. Fulham, Brentford, they're just outstanding. The quality is so much more than when we were up 20 years ago.
I mean, I think as we're talking about strikers, it's a nice moment to discuss Erling Haaland, the man who, of course, scored the hat-trick against you. That's completely not a bad comment at all. But, Brownie, I'll come to you first. 115 months of Erling Haaland, 9.5 years. That's not bad at all, is it?
A couple of goals as well to mention. You know, it's just been an amazing return. The anticipation when he was about to join us, what's he going to bring to this side? Could it improve? Could we win more titles, more trophies? And the second he came in, that confidence, that swagger he had, FG, I couldn't believe it, in that tunnel club out the front of the Colin Bell stand as he stood there, and he just was meant to be walked into training, and from there on, the standards he set, the professionalism, and then the return of goals. It was almost funny, wasn't it? People were going, right, Erling's, no, we're not really seeing him, he's not featuring in the game, 1, 2, 3. And it was like that, wasn't it? And now, to be here, we've had a bit of an up and down few weeks, haven't we? We've been on a lot of the games, FG, and now to announce that 9.5 years, 10 seasons of football from Erling Haaland, I mean, it doesn't get better.
Terrifying for the rest of us.
Well, listen, let's talk about the game really quickly at Portman Road today. How do you see it going?
Hopefully we can sneak a point. It's going to be a very tough afternoon for us, isn't it? We're on a little mini league at the bottom, so this is a kind of a free hit, and we'll take a point all day long.
Well, Dan, listen, all the best for the season, of course. I can't wish you luck for today, but I hope you do have a good day. Either way, me and Mr. Brownie will be all around Portman Road, so we'll catch you on MatchDay Live soon, but for now, let's head to the studio in Manchester.
Thank you so much to FG and Michael Brown. No shock there that they went all the way to Ipswich and put themselves into a pub. I'm also guessing it's significantly warmer in Ipswich because in Manchester today it's freezing and there is no short sleeve shirts available up here at all. So the team are arriving at Portman Road, and you saw there Ruben Diaz entering. Ruben Diaz starts today after 7 games out injured. He hasn't played since the Manchester derby, and he is an extremely welcome return. And there is Ed Sheeran hugging Jack Grealish, Akanji and Erling Haaland. So here is today's Manchester City starting 11. Ederson back in there, and then it is Matheus Nunes, Akanji, who we saw hugging Ed Sheeran there. Ruben Diaz is back, and it is a welcome return. Lovely to see him back, and of course Vardiol as well. Then it is Mateo Kovacic, Ilkay Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, captain Kev after his incredible display midweek. Of course, great display from that man midweek too. Phil Foden, Jeremy Doku, and that man that brought so many smiles this week, as he has the last 2.5 years, it is Erling Haaland. Welcome to MatchDay Live. Joining me in the studio today are 2 guests that I would have given a 9.5-year MatchDay Live contract to if such things existed. It is Steve Howey and Karen Bardsley. Welcome to you both.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I am super excited because we have a double header for you today. So, of course, the men's team are playing at 4:30 away to Ipswich, and the women's team are playing at 7:15 home in the Manchester derby. We are here inside the Etihad Stadium. You can see the most glorious view behind us, and I'm really looking forward to spending the afternoon with you both. Before we go into talking about the City team, though, I want to start with the news, the 9.5-year contract. We jest there. When it came up on my phone on Friday morning, Steve, I laughed out loud and then just beamed in excitement all day because Erling Haaland is a blue and he is going nowhere pretty much ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially for me, when I'd seen it, I'm thinking, 9.5, have they got that wrong for the length of time? Because you don't really hear people getting contracts for that. You hear rumours about players getting contracts for that. But I think the news for him, and I think for Man City, the football club and the fans, I mean, it's ridiculous news. Does that mean he gets a testimonial?
It will
get a testimonial. Yeah. So, I mean, for him to commit his future to the club, I think it's just a fantastic coup for everybody. He wants to be here. He's done that. It's brilliant for the fans, brilliant for the club. And I'm pretty sure there'll be a few more goals getting scored there. I'm certainly sure that he'll be beating Shearer's record of goals.
Do you know what? There was wonderful. Opta worked it out, and I'm sure you've all seen it and you all had a giggle as well. So they've calculated that if Haaland's current ratio of 0.9 goals per game is maintained, he would catch Alan Shearer's record in his 287th game, which, if he plays the next 200 games consecutively in the top flight and never gets injured, would take place on the 32nd game of the 2029-30 season.
No pressure. Absolutely no pressure there. I mean, if I may, I think it's an amazing commitment from the club and then obviously Erling Haaland himself. And it just shows that, the club are ambitious and Erling Haaland, kind of wants to have a team built around him. So, with 111 goals that he's scored so far just at Man City, there's a lot of excitement to come. And I think that's certainly something he'll be looking to exceed, not just break it, but absolutely smash it out and, get his names in the record books more than they are already.
And probably faster than Opta thinks he can do it as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that's what they've said now. It seems, gosh, it's only 2.5 years since that first goal against West Ham, which I remember clear as day. I was in Texas and I watched it on an iPad on some dodgy Wi-Fi, and when he got his first goal against West Ham, and it has absolutely flown by. Here he goes. It was a penalty. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind, and then he dropped and gave us his now famous meditation celebration as well. There's been some incredible goals. I mean, for that to be his first one. His most iconic one that, I think that most people talk about, obviously, is the goal that he scored against Dortmund. But as you say, 111 goals in total. It would be hard to pick out a standout one, Karen.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think I remember I was at the game against Dortmund, and I just could not believe my eyes when I saw that goal. It was just an absolute feat of athleticism, just body awareness, proprioception in space, and how he's managed to readjust himself and time it. I mean, most people with this ball, the Cancelo ball for itself is just beautiful, but the way he gets up there, you think he's going to let it come across his body and hit it with the inside of the right foot, but no, he goes, no, left foot, this will be the easy one. Just blows everyone's mind in the stadium. I just don't think anyone could really believe it.
I remember Paul Dickoff said to me in the days after, Steve, that was above his head. Like, he got his leg that high. And I love the way he just sort of casually walked off like he hadn't scored one of the great goals.
Yeah, obviously his athleticism's ridiculous there. I think a lot of people, the vast majority of people, would have tried to actually head that, like a dive and header type thing, but obviously launching yourself forward, so his agility to reach that ball is incredible. But it just goes to show the kind of striker that he is. He scores all kinds of goals. He gets the tap-ins, but he gets some incredible goals as well, and that just sort of typifies that, really.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, we go into today's game knowing that Erling Haaland scored a hat-trick in the reverse fixture, obviously a lot earlier on this season. I triple captained him in my FPL that day. It was a stroke of, I think it was 52 points. Thank you very much, Erling. Let's hope he can go ahead and score. Do you know what, Karen? I'm not going to be dead greedy and say another hat-trick, but I'll take one or two.
Yeah, I think, getting him back on track in terms of finding his form and just consistently, like putting the goals away is something I think we'd like to see more of. But there's no doubt in my mind that, Ipswich will be really concerned about this threat that he's going to offer the back line. He'll be looking to push the line back and create space and link up. But, in terms of being able to kind of bang in the goals today, it might be difficult. We might see Ipswich block low, but that offers a different kind of performance problem we know he's more than capable of solving. So it'll be exciting today to see how many he can bang in.
Oh gosh, yes, hopefully it's how many. We'll of course give you the Ipswich team news very shortly. They've been playing, like you say, with 5 at the back recently, so we'll let you know what they're lining up like very, very shortly indeed. But before that, I want to look back at the game in midweek, Steve, because of course it was 2-0 up at Brentford in the 10 minutes to go or something, and City ended up drawing 2-2. How important is it that we today, especially today, that we get back on track? I feel like we need a convincing win.
Well, it's vitally important. I think any time you have a result where pretty much the game's saying out, I think you've got about 9 minutes plus added on time to see the game out. And unfortunately you don't. First of all, that is an incredible finish because he's got to time that for him to come across his body and then use the side foot to guide it to where he wanted. A wonderful ball as well. But then again, there's no shocks there because his delivery is incredible. But obviously the manager, we all seen the manager after the game, and we're kind of thinking, is he giving the players a volley here, or is it constructive criticism? What kind of is it? I think it's a bit of both. I think he's frustrated because they were 2-0 up with like 9 minutes plus to go. But look, the way the run's been going lately, in all fairness, you'd have just sort of said, listen, it's a good point away from home. And let's be honest, Brentford's a difficult team to beat at home, and they certainly were, really, apart from recent weeks. They've been very, very good at home. So, yes, it'll be disappointing, but it's a great opportunity to get back to winning ways today.
I think, if I may, in this game in particular, the first goal came from Haaland, holding play up and linking play. I think Savinho came inside and played that ball out to Kevin De Bruyne as well. And I think that just goes to show like what he's capable of doing. He's not just that goal threat like in the box. He can also look to create as well. But you know, along your point as well, Steve, like we saw a little bit of a different Man City, didn't we? They went a bit more direct, you know, kind of not building up through the thirds as much as we're used to seeing, but then maybe didn't quite struggle to adapt when we were under the cosh a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to seeing today is actually, we're probably going to have a lot of the ball. We're going to have to break down the press, but then also like, how do we deal with that counter that we're probably going to see from Ipswich?
So true, Karen. I saw the maddest heat map the other day. I don't know if you saw it. City's heat map from the Brentford game. At a point in the game, Bernardo Silva was the player that had spent the furthest time in defence. That Vardiol was basically up as high as Haaland was. He was actually a little bit deeper at some point. So yeah, and we know that Ipswich, and again we'll get onto the Ipswich team. We know that Ipswich have some fast players and that they're fast on the break. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on that. In terms of that Brentford game, though, Steve, we know it took Liverpool till 90 minutes yesterday. So again, reflection of how difficult it is to play there. The worry for me, and I mean for both of you, question for both of you. City have dropped 14 points from winning positions in the Premier League this season. It's like that is alarming from a team that I used to believe would always see things. In years gone by, Steve, we would always see things out, or we'd find a way in the last minute of winning a game. That is alarming. What do we need to do you think, to stop that now?
Again, I think it's easily said than done, but it's just concentration. I mean, look, you've got to understand as well, you're playing against very, very good players, and just that slight little switch off, and it tends to end up in the back of the net. The 14 points is a lot. You know, where would they be in the league? You know, kind of if they carried that on. I think, you know, we've been spoilt really with the fact that because Man City have been so consistent, so kind of cutthroat when it comes to being in the lead, and then that's it, it's game over type thing. But obviously we're seeing the reverse of that. We've seen a lot of times this season that one ball sometimes just beats the back four or the back three. But I think with having somebody like Diaz back in, I think, you know, we all know how much of a top player he is. That could help as well. But of course, listen, it's going to be a tough game. Ipswich have only won once this season at home, albeit though it was against Chelsea. So they're more than capable. They're a decent team. It will be an interesting game. I am pretty confident that Man City will win, but it's all about keeping that concentration when you do sort of score first, or score, even if you score second and get the next goal, you're in that winning position. It's about being focused and switched on and making sure you don't leave any gaps, because against any team, you leave them gaps, you will get punished.
As soon as Steve said Ruben Diaz, Karen, I immediately felt better.
I know. Yeah, he does obviously bring that experience, that stability, especially if he plays in central areas. So, you know, if we play three in the back, you'd like to think he'll be in the middle. If we play two, he'll probably be the centre-back pairing. And, you know, I think to touch on Steve's point as well, like obviously we've had a lot of defenders injured, and there's been a lot of kind of chopping and changing of positions and players, and we have a lot of attacking players that are unfamiliar with, you know, the role of defending, and kind of what it takes, and kind of like the easy habits that you might overlook, or you might, you know, not realize are important. So like when you're recovering, you know, what your recovery runs are looking like, where you're looking in terms of frame of reference of where to stop, how to defend the goal, you know, where to force, how to check your shoulder, you know, more consistently, and just being aware of what's around you. And I think, you know, to Steve's point as well, Ipswich are a really fun team to watch for me. Watched them midweek against Brighton, and you know, the first half I thought, okay, there's something here. There's they struggle to adapt a little bit in play and game, but you know, I think you're absolutely right. They will offer a threat.
Liam Delap's a really fun player to watch. We'll talk about that in a minute. I completely agree with you. And Leif Davis as well, obviously, was such a standout player in the Championship. Just before we go on to that Ipswich team news, I want to talk about Kev, because obviously he was phenomenal midweek. We saw the ball there that he played for Foden. He had so many chances, 8 chances created, which is his best ever in a Premier League away game. Oh, Steve, it is good timing to have this man back to his best.
Yeah, I mean, to get a player like him back, any team's going to benefit. He sees things that other people don't see. He sees things that other players don't see. And I think he sees things where players will think, well, I've got that, yes, there's that gap there. He's not going to hit it in there. He can't hit it in there, and he does. He is incredible. As I said, he's got this ridiculous vision. you see sort of just a fantastic chess player. He's always 2 or 3 moves ahead before the ball even comes to them, and he must be such a joy to play with. Obviously, he scores goals as well, but his assists are incredible. As I said, defenders. If I'm a defender and I know he's whipping a ball in, they're just an absolute nightmare to defend, because you're thinking, if I get something on it, if I try and clear it, there's a very good chance I'm going to score an own goal. So it's one of them horrible ones. It's kind of like the dead man's ball. I don't really want to go anywhere near it. But he puts you in that awful position, but that's the quality of him.
Oh, this is a lovely highlights package. I forgot how great. But I liked the one that we just saw a minute ago, Karen, where he picked the ball up from Stefan Ortega and then he drove through every player in the midfield, and he did about 70 yards on his own.
Yeah, I mean, Steve touched on it there. The quality is what he brings. So not only is his awareness in terms of where the ball is going to arrive in space. He knows the timing of when to arrive as well. So he manages the pockets. He's in between the lines. He sets himself up. He prepares the space to receive a ball and play a lovely ball in there. That deft touch from Phil Foden is unbelievable, like Steve mentioned earlier as well. But he knows the dangerous areas and he knows the space that players should be in. So it becomes almost instantaneous, automatic instinct, And I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing that tonight.
Me too. Right, do we think if we go back to Ipswich that they're still in the pub?
I hope so. I hope they are.
I hope they're actually doing some work. Right, let's go back over to FG, who's at Portman Road.
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome to Portman Road. It's with great pleasure to say. You saw him at the start of the show and you'll see him again. Mr. Michael Brown has travelled the many miles like he does every single week. We've just seen the Manchester City starting lineup. What do you make of it?
Again, it's exciting, isn't it? I think what's interested me, Jeremy Doku coming in on that left-hand side, Ruben Diaz centrally. It's great to see him back. We could have a good battle with Delap. But in the middle of the pitch, 2 holding players potentially, in Kovacic and Ilkay Gundogan. We're set up with thinking that they're going to be 2 of them, but we know Ilkay Gundogan could easily go and play an 8, go and get in behind this Ipswich side. So really interesting. It's glad to be back. I've not been here for such a long time. It's a historic stadium and football club. And I'm really looking forward to this one. I was delighted to come and obviously had the opportunity, and it's just a really good football place.
It seems to be very, very close to the pitch here as well, from being on the side of the pitch. As a player,
you're on it. We're on it.
We're essentially on
we're actually on it.
Here,
we could be getting told off.
We have got a mat here though, so
we're on the pitch. This is a first, isn't it?
Well, there you can see
they're
the
so
line
friendly. They let
faintly.
you on the pitch, FG.
Well, yeah, they put a mat on us as well. I mean, this is the closest I'll ever get to a football pitch. But I mean, you've got probably some good memories of this place.
Well, as long as there's not a ball coming your way, I think that's the one thing. Yeah, good memories. I just think it's a proper football club. And from the second you walk in, how you met the supporters, the friendly staff, and as you say as well, it's a great stadium, good surface, and that sort of turnaround of the club with Kieran McKenna has been brilliant.
It has indeed. We'll have the Ipswich team news for you very shortly, but just over Brownie's left shoulder, in the corner over there, is the away section where all the Man City fans would have made the long journey here for the game today. Now, we've seen the team. We spoke about Ruben Diaz being back. I mean, if you didn't know already, the importance of that man within the back four as not just a great defender, but also a leader as well.
Well, he's vocal. I think that's the point. He organises, he demands more from players in front of him. So he's saying, you get here, come around. Classic centre-backs where they want protection. And I think that's the point. And if we see Nunes in that right-back position, so we're going really, really high, Akanji shifting over, he has to have that control. He has to understand the counter-attack that they've got, and might be slightly different, which we can talk about later what Ipswich are going to bring. But it's just great to have him. Ederson as well in behind him, so we've got experience and understanding, and we've got squad depth at times that you have to make those changes. Lots of games. Yeah,
there's a lot of games. Of course, PSG to come midweek. Kevin De Bruyne captain today, and we saw glimpses of Kevin De Bruyne at his best at Brentford. How important is it to get him back fit and match ready?
I was back in commentary as well, wasn't I, when Kevin's starting to go, and I'm like, here he goes again. Something happens the second he gets on the ball. He's so exciting, isn't he? Just gets that ball out of his feet or on the half turn. What really impressed me at Brentford, he was driving right through the middle. He looked fitter, he looked more energetic, and that's what we need. So another game for Kevin. He's just got that special aura. He sees passes that nobody else does, and that's why he's the Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah, he just makes football look absolutely incredibly easy. Let's reveal to you then, shall we, the team news for the home side this afternoon. So in goal is Walton, and then it is Davis, Morsey, Kajust, Burgess, Johnson, Delap, Hutchinson, O'Shea, Godfrey and Jack Clark. Now, we'll come to Liam Delap in a moment, but a man who's making his league debut for Ipswich today is Ben Godfrey, former Everton player and at Atalanta. He played in the Conference League final last season. He's a very, very good player, isn't he?
Well, he's got the experience. I think straight away, I think we've got to give full credit to the board at Ipswich. The second they went into the Premier League, they invested a lot of money. Nobody thought there would even be in any sort of touching distance of staying up. And now players want to come. They've gone for others. Johnson can come in as well on that right-hand side. So Godfrey, you know what he's going to produce. I don't think he'll be faced by it. But interestingly enough, sometimes they play with wider players in Hutchinson and Clark. They might just play a little bit narrower to try and stop City with that sort of box formation in the middle.
Yeah, Amari Hutchinson, a former Chelsea player, of course. He was on loan here and they made that permanent in the summer. He's got a lot of quality and he seems to be the playmaker in this side.
Well, he is. I mean, he's exciting, isn't he? He wants to get you off your seat. I think I'm interested to see the approach from McKenna today. He's a talented, knowledgeable young coach who can adapt, who can change. But you do feel like if he plays really slow, coming out from the back, we'll go and press, we'll go and put that pressure on. He's got to use Delap. He's got to try and turn us round. That's their perspective. But I think we've got enough to cope whatever he brings.
And yeah, let's bring onto that conversation of former Manchester City Academy player Liam Delap. A man who's shown so many good things here. I mean, the fans here absolutely love him, and the team seem to use him as that driving force. He's really good at bringing the ball forward. He's got strength as well, and he's added goals to his game in the Premier League.
But if you know his dad, who was extremely fit, very, very strong, he's just got that build, hasn't he, that DNA. I went out at City and had some loans that I thought would have went a little bit better. You know, almost got your touch there, FG.
That was nearly the touch.
Very close.
There as well,
it was a big test, but do you know, some of his loans didn't go so well. I felt like he could have played more games for City. It didn't obviously materialise like that. But then he come here, he got a manager who believed in, a system that you're over your shoulder, you're looking now there just in case you get hit. But he's done so well. He's growing in confidence. He's getting a few goals. Everybody's talking about him. Imagine when he's looking and going, when is that game here against City? I've done it before. You'll want to do well. You want to show people that you can go to the next level. That's what he'll try today.
Yeah, I had a chat with him and he was very excited, and also very excited to see old friends McAtee and Rico, who's asking where they were. If you look over Brownie's shoulder on the halfway line as well, there's Kieran Slicker on the halfway line, a former Manchester City Academy goalkeeper, another product of the unbelievable academy.
Well, this is what every football club we go to, we're looking and we're going, right, another academy, another player who's featured in the blue shirt. But that's what we're developing, that's what we're doing. Everybody wants to join the football club to have a shot to play in Pep's team. And that's not going to change. And that's what the club have done so well now, building that academy. They just keep coming through, and fantastic recruitment, whether it's not the academy first time round, whether they get them a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see many more products of the Man City Academy around the world of football. It's freezing cold here, so we're just going to head back to the studio where I know Natalie is going to be really smug and really warm.
Yeah, we are nice and warm inside the studio, but outside of this studio, it is absolutely freezing in Manchester today. Thank you so much to FG and to Michael Brown. I was kind of hoping to see FG's touch there, by the way. I thought that could have given us all a snigger on a Sunday afternoon. Love you, FG. OK, so that is the Ipswich team news for today. I guess the standout team news there for Ipswich is that Ben Godfrey starts. He was signed last week on loan from Atalanta. And they also signed Jayden Philogene from Villa, but he's only on the bench today. But in terms of Godfrey, he was at Everton, so we know what he's like. We know what a centre-back he is, Steve. So is he an important addition for Ipswich?
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, he's just signed, and you can imagine him thinking, wow, one of my first games is against Erling Haaland. So he probably is not... I think sometimes players like that, though. I think they like the test. And I think it's a good kind of baptism of fire for him. But they'll not just be him, there'll be the rest of the team that's got to make sure that they're all switched on, because it's not just Erling Haaland at Man City, there's all the other players that they've kind of got to contend with. But they'll be looking, you know, McKenna, the manager, will be saying, let's us cause them problems. You know, so with the likes of Hutchinson, Jack Clark and of course Delap, they've got a threat. So they'll be sort of saying, listen, yeah, we've got to keep it tight, but let's cause them a problem.
They mentioned Delap. We mentioned him a little bit earlier, Karen. You said you enjoy watching Ipswich. I really enjoy watching Liam Delap. I like that type of number 9. And of course, Liam Delap was one of our academy players that went to Ipswich. So I'm expecting a big game from him today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see here during the COVID season, you know, he's an absolute monster. He's the size of him. I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's about 6'2", something along those lines. And the way he moves that frame, the way he's in control, is something that I think he's really developed over the last few years as well. I think during the season at one point, like, there were rumours around the media that he was going to be the solution to, you know, this false 9 dilemma that Manchester City have. And, you know, I think sometimes, I mean, what a finish that was, by the way. Like, the stanchions rattled as well. But what I really like about him is, like, he uses his body really well. He's got great technique, good skill. He's happy to link up plays, happy to threaten in behind. He's just playing one of those players you don't really see that much anymore. And I really, really like that about him. So, yeah, certainly, I think, you know, Ipswich are probably going to look to play quite direct. They'll be looking for him as a target. But as Steve said, I think you've got Amari Hutchinson on the left. You know, what will also be interesting is, you know, the reverse in terms of what we'll be able to do to Ipswich as well, because a back 5, you know, I think Delku might have some fun with Ben Johnson tonight.
Yeah, because you mentioned, of course, Hutchinson is fast. We know Delap. I think Delap's annoying, and I like that in a centre forward, like somebody that the fans love because they're really up for it, and they're always in someone's face. And I know the Ipswich fans love him. We obviously have had questions asked about us, particularly in transition lately, and the players that you mentioned there and that Steve mentioned. They are fast. They're fast players. They're going to look to try and get us on the break. So it's going to be important that, well, as we mentioned before, having Ruben Diaz is going to be key to that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, it's about recognising, you know, when the play does break down, immediately just getting numbers behind the ball, like whoever's nearest, making sure they're there to press. Like, that's going to be key today in terms of those regains. So I think with Ruben Diaz obviously back in the lineup, like, he'll be able to bring some stability, some guidance to be able to make sure we have that structure behind the ball. But yeah, you know, with Ederson obviously being back in there, that'll allow a higher line. You know, he'll be comfortable with his feet, being able to clean anything up in behind as well. So that's quite nice to have back as well. Not that Stephen Ortega hasn't done a phenomenal job.
Yeah. We've got to have a word, of course, on Ipswich's rise, Steve, because 2 years ago they were in League One. You know, they were in the middle of League One when they appointed Kieran McKenna. Of course, they took him from Manchester United's academy, and he's so well loved in Ipswich for his coaching, for his man management, for his all-round ability, and the way he's taken them from the middle of League One to the Premier League in 2 years, you know, back-to-back promotions. I mean, he deserves all the plaudits that he's getting.
Yeah, I mean, apparently his man management is very, very good. I think players love that. You know, they like a manager that trusts you, gives you that kind of belief. And when you've got something like that, I mean, look, if you try different things and it doesn't come off, he's like, well, fine, you tried it. You know, rather than some managers can be very critical. What have you tried that there for? You know, we've lost the ball, it's done this to us and that to us. But he's obviously gone in, he's come in with fresh ideas, new ideas, very approachable as a manager. You know, some managers back in the day, you didn't dare knock on the door because you knew what was coming your way. But yeah, he seems a very forward-thinking manager, a manager that was actually linked, I think, at one stage with the England job before it got taken. But yeah, seems a very good manager to play with. And you see the way that his players play for him. You know, they play with freedom. They're not frightened to try things, and I think because of that, and the players, you know, if you get the players on board, that's half the battle. If you're battling with your players and your beliefs and stuff like that, then you're struggling from day one. But he's certainly got them on his side, and it shows because he's obviously gone there where they were, and look where they are now. They probably will get relegated. I know it's might be kind of prompting a bit too early, but they probably will. But to be fair, at times they've been a breath of fresh air.
And of the 3 promoted teams, they seem to be the one club left with hope. And you know, when you hear Southampton and Leicester fans talking, you know, Ipswich, they still have belief. I mean, obviously, when you beat Chelsea at home, you're going to have belief. On that relegation subject, though, there's been other games today. So, interesting score that I'm sure the Ipswich fans will be groaning at is that Everton are currently beating Spurs, although it is now 3-2. And it is 90+3 there at Everton. Richarlison's just, Richarlison going, Howey scored 90+2 there. So, of course, that's a big result for Ipswich because that is a big 3 points for Everton if that happens. If you're wondering what's going on behind as well, it appears that they are testing the light show ahead of the derby later on. 6:45 kick-off tonight in the WSL. Of course, it'll be dark in Manchester, way dark in Manchester by then. And so we will get to see this light show again, but they're in the dark. So I'll give you an update in a bit with the Everton score, but as it stands, Everton will be on 20 points in 16th. Wolves in 17th on 16, Ipswich in 18th on 16 as well, just on goals scored there against Wolves. So that is a big result. I'm sure Ipswich will be paying attention to that today. So I mentioned there, of course, Ipswich having back-to-back promotions. There was another team that did back-to-back promotions. If I take you back to 2001, of course, Manchester City back-to-back promotions, back in the Premier League. And then we got relegated again. And it was at Portman Road against Ipswich. And somebody in the studio was playing. Steve Howey.
What was it doing?
So that 2001, we got relegated at Portman Road. I mean, there's a likelihood we might have been going down already. But what's your memories from that day?
Not great. I can remember the game, funnily enough. But, I mean, we just didn't have enough that season. I think we started off okay. I think the first game of the season, actually, we played Charlton, we got beat. But after that, we started off okay. But after that, we were okay. But playing in the Premier League against top players week in, week out, there's just no let-up. And whilst we had a great bunch of lads, we just weren't good enough. And it's as simple as that. But that night, I think we went 1-0 up with goats. But unfortunately, our season, we conceded a couple and lost the game, and then that was us. But, as a player, you have highs, but this was certainly a huge blow for myself and the rest of the boys.
Absolute pounced on there by Gota, who seems to have injured himself.
He looks sharp there, actually.
Look!
It's not like goals.
He's way quicker there than the defender, look.
Do you know what? If there's a chance in the box, he is the quickest man alive. Anything else?
Yes, that was the 75th minute. We went 1-0 up, and then, oh gosh, we ended up losing the game 2-1. So Ipswich scored twice. You were telling us before about a significant injury that you picked up in the game, Steve.
I didn't. I mean, I knew it hurt at the time, but I just didn't take much notice of it. But I just went in with a sliding challenge. I think it was tightest bramble. It hurt, but then you just get on with it. And even after the game, I kind of just put I think it's called a Premaport, just stuck it on my side, but then realised it wasn't great. So I've still got quite a decent scar there.
It's like when your kidneys started coming out, were you sort of...
Yeah, there was bits of stuff coming out, but just, back in the day, just put a plaster on and away we go.
How many stitches did you have?
I think it was 15 in the end.
Oh, my word.
He played it down there and then he told us 15
Honestly,
before, Karen.
You should see the scar. It's probably not that kind of show, but,
No.
You should see the scar.
It's a big old scar, yeah. So that was you got a 15 stitches and a massive scar from tightest bramble there, Steve. And other memories of that game for me was the banner. Do you remember the banner?
Do you know, it's funny enough, I think we were talking, weren't we, beforehand, and I couldn't remember, but actually when you mentioned it, I could remember, and I think it was around the time of The Weakest Link. And I forget what the lady was called, Anne Robinson.
Robinson.
So I've got it doesn't surprise me that the City fans have held that against them.
Yeah, City fans of my age and older very much remember that game and remember that the Ipswich fans held up a banner saying, "You are the weakest link, goodbye," because we got relegated. And I've always carried a bit of a chip on my shoulder towards Ipswich. I'm happy for their back-to-back promotion, Karen, but, I'm still annoyed.
Yeah.
20...
Do you have a grudge against
4 years
Anne
later?
Robinson as well?
Yes, because of that, absolutely. So that was 2001, and you know where Ipswich finished in that season? Would you like a guess?
Tell me.
5th.
Did they really?
That's crazy, isn't it?
Wow.
George Burley was
yeah.
manager of the year that year, and the following year they went down. And then, of course, down for quite a few years.
Oh,
and
no.
Then, yes, they were the weakest link that year. Yes, we should have had a banner, but no. So that was 2001. And, of course, since then, they were floundering, went down again, and then had the back-to-back promotion for Ipswich. So the 2001 game, Steve.
Yeah. As I said, it was a bit of... as a player, you're sorry for your teammates, but you're sorry for the fans. I mean, it's an awful long way for them to travel. And you just feel as though you let everybody down. It happened to me I think that was the only time it happened to me in my career. So yeah, it wasn't.
Not at all. That is not. I don't. My memory of it is not at all being let down ever. I don't think I went to that game. I was going home and away at that time, but I think Ipswich was just a little bit too far for me. Yeah. Yes, a little bit too far. Now, somebody else that was around the squad at that time as well was, of course, our wonderful Nicky Weaver. This week, we sat down with Nicky Weaver and Stefan Ortega for a goalkeeper catch-up.
Hi, Stefan. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Got a few questions here, so we'll get fired straight away. Can you describe yourself as a player?
Good question. I would say I'm really disciplined and really straight on the pitch.
Yeah. Because I suppose now you are classed as a player. When I played, you was a goalkeeper. Where now you're sort of part of the team, aren't you? And you really, join in with the build-up play, and there's sort of a lot of things, a lot of patterns start from you, don't they?
I would say, yeah, right now to be a goalkeeper is quite tough.
Yeah,
but we never forget what is our main target.
Yeah.
That's saving balls.
Absolutely. Because ultimately you're judged on what goes in, aren't you?
Yeah.
And when I played, talking about you with how good you are with your feet, when I broke into City's team, I was 19. Everyone said I was good with my feet. I wasn't. I could just kick with my left foot. Because the goalkeepers before me couldn't kick with their left foot. So it was a different game.
Yeah.
But you're certainly a player as well as a goalkeeper as well.
What is it about goalkeeping that you love?
Well, I think when I was a kid, I loved diving around and getting muddy. Loved sliding, diving at people's feet, and making saves. But I think the best feeling was winning 1-0 away from home.
Yeah.
And you'd contributed to the win.
Some saves,
a clean sheet. And it seems almost now that clean sheets have gone out of the window. When I played, you really prided yourself on your clean sheets. And it was a real target at the beginning of the season, where now it's almost, we'll score more than you.
The best part of being a goalkeeper is the decision making, to play with the pressure. And first of all, I hate running, that's why I ended up in the goal. But at the end, the feeling when you save a ball with the head or with the chest is like after the final whistle, when everyone is coming together for a hug, or you're having a beer after a clean sheet. That's like one of the best feelings,
Yeah, I certainly think so. When did you think you had made it as a footballer? Was there a defining moment?
Obviously when I came out of my mother.
Don't go into detail.
When I was young, I started to play in every position. I grew up in a small village, so it was a bit like when you play football together. It was like the rule of last man is goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But then when I think it was 10, 11, when I realized I've got a big qualities in goalkeeping, and then I started to be just a goalkeeper, when I had the feeling to reach the professional football was probably the last year in the academy.
Yeah.
When you start to train with the first team for the first time.
And you believe that
you're
good
and you
enough.
see how big is the gap to the keepers who are there, and then you realize a bit your quality.
Yeah, I was a centre forward till I was a striker till 11 or 12, and then went into goal, and then I became a professional. And I probably feel I was probably about 30 when I actually felt I'd made it as a goalkeeper or professional footballer. Because if I retired at 30, I could say I was a footballer. Where if I retired at 21, you did it for a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a great journey, and I probably think I was about 30 when I actually felt I'd proper made it.
It's Nicky Weaver speaking to Stefan Ortega earlier this week. And of course, there is Ederson warming up. Ederson is starting today. It's been really interesting. I don't want to call it a battle between the two of them, but I do like the competition element between the goalkeepers there. And of course, we've got the perfect person in the studio today to talk about that. KB, first of all, were you, like Nicky Weaver, were you a striker before you became a goalkeeper? Because I feel like that's a common story for goalkeepers.
I feel like everyone just wants to be an outfield player. I mean, obviously I got into football just like my dad, he loved football, so it kind of was our thing. But I just loved running around, and as a kid and as a parent, you're like, please, how can I make sure my child is knackered at the end of the day? And football is a perfect solution.
100%, yes.
But eventually I was like, what, it takes a certain kind of person to be in goal, and I was like filling that criteria really quickly. So before I knew it, I love diving around at people's feet. A lot of things that Nicky was saying there, I can really, really relate to. I love making saves, getting dirty, like just throwing myself around, and then really disappointing and frustrating the opponents, when you're winning away and things like that. But You know, it doesn't always go, you know, the way you kind of hope it will. Like, I think especially when you're number one, sometimes it can be different to kind of hold on to your shirt. And, you know, I think when Stefan's come in, he's obviously, you know, he's accumulated his experience over the years, you know, getting more and more opportunities to play, and I think he's really grown into the role. And I would say, you know, in terms of they're quite different, you know, in their the way that their style, the way they keep goal, but then also the way they distribute. But I've been really impressed with Stefan and how his distributions come along. He's very accurate for the most part, but the thing is, when you don't play a lot of games consistently, sometimes your decision making isn't quite the same or is as sharp as it needs to be. So I think he's, you know, come a long way, you know, with Eddie's absence and stuff like that, through injury or what have you. But it's a great position to be in as a club, to have two phenomenal goalkeepers.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, when Stefan Ortega came in, it was with the understanding that he was the number 2 to Ederson. And then he had some incredible moments last year. I mean, we always talk about the Spurs moment, in the Cup as well, incredible moments in the Cup competitions. And then this season, Ederson got injured. And I guess as a goalkeeper, you don't want to see that happen to somebody else, but you also know that's when you're going to get your opportunity. And he took that opportunity and has created, and again, I don't want to call it a battle, but you know, there is a decision to be made now between the two of them.
Yeah, and that's what your job is. I mean, as a goalkeeper, you know that, you know, there's only one position to play. It's not like you can sub in at right back or anything, you know what I mean? Or maybe Eddie could, I don't know.
Well, hey, you know, I bet Pep's considered it.
Yeah, he could fill in that, you know, that holding midfield role. And your job is to kind of put doubt in the manager's mind about who to play, you know, and like I said, these two goalkeepers have very complementary skill sets. You know, it kind of depends on how, you know, Pep is going to want the team to play, how they're going to want them to build, you know, what type of opposition they're going to face as well. Because I do think Stefan Ortega is like probably a better shot stopper than Eddie is, but Eddie's distribution is just unbelievable, you know, and, you know, what is the more likely thing that you're going to have to do? You're probably going to have to distribute a lot more. But we have, you know, seen that, you know, Stefan makes big saves in big moments as well. But like I said, sometimes just not having those minutes makes things a little bit harder in terms of how quickly you're making decisions and things like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. If it was a penalty shootout, I would pick Stefan ahead of Ederson to be in that moment.
But this is it. We're having this conversation.
Yeah.
It's really hard because you could go either way and be relatively happy. You know what I mean?
So Pepper said before the game in his interview that his decision to play Ederson today was based on a conversation that he had with the goalkeeping coach about how they have been training this week. Have you ever been in a position in your career, because of course you were number 1 here, number 1 for England, where there has been a number 2 that has been breathing down your neck?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a natural progression of things, isn't it? Like, you start out and you're that number 2 and you're just like, I just want to play, and you're young and you're just thinking, I just have to wait for my time. And usually as a goalkeeper, it is through injury, so you just have to be ready and bide your time and train, and, you know, hope that when you do get your chance, it goes as well as you can make it. But yeah, I've had that in my career where you think, oh, I've got a target on my back, I've got everything everyone wants, and you can feel that gap sometimes closing as you're getting older. Young talent is coming through. You know, I had it with like Ellie Roebuck and things like that. You know, Sandy McKeever, who was here and then went to the States to get some more experience. She's come back and she's made massive strides. And I think sometimes you just have to switch in your brain. You go, okay, like, I can see the writing on the wall. Now I've gone from, you know, like, competitor to mentor. And I think, you know, it's a helpful way to look at it when you know kind of the end is in sight, if you know what I mean.
I love that of looking at it like that way, to a mentor. So you're in your head, you're always giving back. Like,
that's the only thing you can do. And the goalkeeper union is a special place, you know, and you want to do what's right for the team, even if it's not necessarily what's right for you in that time. And at the time, I was perpetually injured. It was just one of those things where I was like, I'm not going to be playing consistently. Ellie's doing really well. The style is evolving. We've got a new manager. It's like, what can I give her to make sure that she's got as much preparation as possible? And you think, I'm just going to be really supportive.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed hearing your perspective on that, which is becoming a really interesting point of the season. Now, of course, it's been a really difficult week for the footballing world, and of course for Manchester City as well, because on Friday, former Manchester City player Denis Law passed away. Of course, Denis had 2 spells with City, the first in 1960, where he scored 23 goals in 43 games, and then he came back in 1973. He returned from our neighbours Manchester United in what was a very surprising move at the time, but he was welcomed back by City fans, and despite his success across the city, he scored twice against Birmingham on his second City debut, along with Franny Lee, Mike Summerby and Rodney Marsh. He was part part of the iconic forward line for what would be his last season in football. He played 79 competitive games for City, scoring 37 goals. The thoughts of everybody at Manchester City are with Denis's family and friends at this time. So the men's game will kick off in around about 15 minutes, of course, 4:30 away at Ipswich, and you'll get your full match commentary with Alistair Mann and with Michael Brown. And then on a double-header day at 7:15 is the Manchester derby here at the Etihad Stadium in the WSL. I cannot wait. What a day of football. A little bit earlier on, we managed to catch up with Gareth Taylor.
We're yet to lose at the stadium. What's behind sort of our great record there? And when we welcome the fans, we seem to really rise to that challenge as well.
I think the occasion. I think obviously the game under the lights is different to probably what we played previously against United when both of those were midday kickoffs. So, and this one obviously falls under the lights again, which I think is exciting. And we saw that against Tottenham where, you know, you get that kind of zip on the pitch. The pitch is obviously very good, even at this time of year, it's in good condition. And we're able to play our progressive football, hopefully, and put on a good performance in front of probably a wider audience to what we normally get at the Joy Stadium.
And what are your thoughts on the challenge of Mark Skinner's side?
Well, I try not to think too much about what they have to worry about. Hopefully they have a lot to worry about with us, of course, as much as we'll be really up to speed on problem areas that they could hurt us with. We very much make it about ourselves and how we're going to impose ourselves on the game.
It feels as though these derby matches are kind of growing in ferocity. The derby seems to be getting bigger each year. Do you feel that as players and coaches that these games are having raised importance seemingly year on year?
I think so. There's different types of rivalries between us and obviously our City rivals across the way, but also, you know, the teams that are usually competing at the top end of the division are obviously, you know, that brings a different type of rivalry. So yeah, of course, it'll never change from the many years been associated with this club. It's always a big game, of course, and I think that certainly in the women's game, it's given some really good, exciting moments for us over the years, both at the Joy and obviously at the Etihad Stadium.
And how are we shaping up? We've obviously still got a few injuries, but Medium are back in the goal as well, and Rebecca, I thought, had a great debut as well against Ipswich.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things around Rebecca. Is obviously the performance was great in a sense that she's very humble and very quick to learn. And, you know, if you have that, then you have a really good opportunity to perform well. Plus also I have to say the girls made it really supportive for her to be able to be herself and add her little bits that she does to the game. But yeah, I thought that she did great in that sense, and it was really helpful for us in that period, like you say, where we've lost a number of players, Alex being one of them. I think to bring in Rebecca has been great in a sense of steadying the ship, and of course trying to look at getting Bunny back, and then obviously Lauren and Alex, who obviously will be a little bit further down the line than Bunny. But yeah, I think once we can get those types of players back, it's going to help us. Like Viv helped us at the weekend. It's good to have her back. 3 games in 6 days, the reality of that for her is going to be a real push, but we'll see how it goes.
And just finally, what would your message to supporters be going to the game on Sunday?
Just to come and make yourself heard. I think that, you know, these games have always been really exciting games, always been a really good occasion. And of course, you've got 2 teams who are battling out at the top of the division. Yeah, just really excited to send everybody home, hopefully with a really good result.
Thank you for your time, Gareth. Best of luck on Sunday.
No problem. Thank you.
That was our manager, Gareth Taylor, ahead of the Manchester derby 6:45 kickoff from the Etihad Stadium. Unbeaten here we are in the Manchester derby. That was very Yoderish, wasn't it? Yes. I don't know where that came from. But we are unbeaten here at the Etihad Stadium in the Manchester derby. We've won 4 and we've drawn 1. We're also unbeaten at home in Manchester derbies as well, winning 4 of 5 such meetings with Manchester United. So we have a great record against them. You are going to be on co-commentary for the game. Are you excited?
Yeah, I am. I think it's going to be an amazing game. Obviously, United kind of haven't always been around in the women's game at the first team level. So this is a relatively recent thing in terms of, the history of the Manchester derby. But I'm very proud to say it's always typically aired on the blue side of Manchester. So I'm certainly looking forward to it. There's always there's always goals in these games, so it's always exciting. But, to play here, the atmosphere is always unbelievable. It's difficult to hear yourself think when you're down on the pitch, but, it's bragging rights for obviously Manchester, but also it's so tight at the table at the minute, isn't it? There's not many points available. Just one between the teams at the minute, and there's a lot on the line between second, third, and fourth as well. So I'm really looking forward to the game. I think I'm feeling Manchester, but I'm feeling Manchester City, but I certainly think it's going to be tight.
Yeah, because we were looking there, Steve. Big wins for Arsenal today. Chelsea currently winning 4-0 as well. Like Karen said, the table is so tight. So there is that aspect of the bragging rights, but also we need this win today to keep up with Chelsea and Arsenal.
Yeah, you don't want really Chelsea to get too much of a big gap. Obviously, there is that bit of a gap there, but to win today, as Karen was saying, not only do you get the bragging rights, but you get them 3 points, which pushes them back into second place above Arsenal. So all to play for.
All to play for in the Manchester derby, as there always is. 6:45 kickoff, but of course before that the men play in the Premier League against Ipswich. We're going to head back over now to FG and Michael Brown, who are at Portman Road.
Yes, thank you, Natalie. Welcome back to Portman Road. Kickoff is fast approaching, and what a view me and Brownie have got here. We're watching the players go through their pre-match routines. How you feeling, Brownie?
I feel a little bit inferior. I'm down the hill at this moment in time as you look over me towering. No, but it's great, isn't it? There's such access like this to watch that intensity now, the concentration levels, just these little drills now as Erling just wins a little bit of the possession back. But no, great insight now. This is where they're really getting on it, trying to understand what they've got to do, their roles, just getting a feel for the ball, getting used to the pitch, etc. So, yeah, really great to be standing here.
Yeah, it is absolutely great to be stood here. We're looking out at some of the players. How will the players be feeling in situations like this? They're all used to it, of course, but a ground like this, very close to the pitch, the fans can be heard everywhere from all around. Is there anything that they do differently in situations like this based on their surroundings?
Well, I just think it's a ground some of them won't have been to, so it's just getting used to what the pitch is like, what's expected from them, what they're going to come up against, because they don't know all the players, because they're still new to the Premier League. And is it going to be high tempo game? Is it going to be possession? Are we going to get turned round? Are they going to go more direct? So just these little levels now, you see all the staff just around, just seeing who's at it, who's not, going back and reporting if no one is, just to make sure when we come out of that first whistle we're ready for it.
And if you look behind us as well, this is the away section here at Portman Road. It goes all the way up to the top, and the City fans are already making a lot of noise, in particular in the concourse.
Yeah, they're already waiting. This is the point, because again, they've travelled such a long way. This will be one of the grounds say, we've not been here for a while, let's get down to Ipswich. There's this great stadium that we've mentioned before, but now it's just that level now of getting ready, getting on the game, supporters as well, walking in, getting ready to get behind the side. But I'm expecting a really entertaining game.
It's interesting as well as you look sometimes at the players who are doing their warm-ups, their individual warm-ups. So Akanji's passing the ball to Josko long range. Then you've got Ruben Diaz in the centre of the pitch who's doing his own sort of warm-up. Kevin De Bruyne taking shots, etc. Every player has their own routine as well, don't they?
Yeah, I've noticed as well that sometimes Jack Grealish is one of the ones who sets the shots away. Just the feeder at the edge of the area, who just starts to actually just lay it off and bring players in, getting a feel at the edge of the area. So some likes to get shots in, some like just a little bit of short pass, and some like long, and some like a little bit more stride. So everybody's different, but now you've got to facilitate that and get the best what the players need ready for kick-off.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible atmosphere here at Portman Road, but hopefully there's going to be the fans behind us who are doing all the shouting. We'll head back to the studio and we will see you very soon.
Thank you very much to FG and to Michael Brown. These are some live shots from Portman Road. That's some fan zone they've got going on there. Is it a fan zone? Whatever, must be whatever they're doing. It looks wonderful down there.
Ed Sheeran might be doing a little bit.
I thought that, Steve. Thought the old crowd around. So we are less than 10 minutes, 8 minutes away from today's kickoff, 4:30 p.m. And of course, as always, you will get full match commentary on the Manchester City app. If you're not currently on the app, switch over there now so that you're ready for Alistair Mann and for Michael Brown. So with the kickoff fast approaching, Steve, give us your final thoughts. What's your predictions? How is this game going to go?
I think City are going to win. I do think a lot of the City players will be kind of when the game first kicks off, because it's a great ground and they do make some noise, and it can be kind of like, wow, you know, didn't expect that much noise. Wonderful pitch. I think it's one of these where they'll have to ride the storm a little bit in periods. I'm not saying they'll come out kind of on guns blazing Ipswich, but they might. But I think they'll have to ride those little kind of threats now and again. But I do see City winning, but they will have to make sure they're concentrating and they're switched on at all times, because when you have got players that we've mentioned, like Hutchinson, who's very quick, and Jack Clark, and of course, again, as we mentioned, Delap, they pose a threat, 100%. But the quality that City have, I do see a City win.
Phew, okay, hold your score prediction just for a second and we'll go to Karen first. Karen, what's your kind of feelings towards the game? What's going to happen?
I certainly think that, City will win tonight. How much we're going to win by, my gut instinct was thinking around like 3-1. But I think that's going to be quite difficult. Obviously, playing against Ipswich, that they're going to be compact. They're going to defend very resolutely, probably 5 in the back. So it's probably going to be more like midfielders getting forward, like Kevin in the half space, Phil in the half space, looking for opportunities to score cutbacks or edge of the area as well. So it might not be Haaland tonight, but he's always a threat, so he's always going to occupy the centre backs or the back line. So I'm feeling confident tonight.
Great. So you're thinking 3-1?
I think so, yeah.
Steve?
I was going to go 3-1, but...
No one's stopping you?
But
Sorry, Steve.
I'll go 3-0.
Oh, very nice, Steve. A clean sheet. Okay, I like that, because Ipswich have only scored 8 goals at home all season, so that would be a nice little touch for us.
It would be very nice.
A confidence boost for Eddie.
A win, we'll just take a win, but
well,
I mean, obviously, 3. I think, I know you'd mentioned about Erling Haaland. I just think he might be buzzing with his contract, so he might get...
I hope you're right.
I
hope you're right.
Lovely. Thank you. Steve, thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Karen, thank you for being here. We will be here for a long time yet. So we'll be back at half-time and then full-time, and then we'll be previewing the women's game, of course, 6:45 kickoff. We're going to go over now to the commentary team of Alistair Mann and Michael Brown.
Thank you, Natalie. A 5-match unbeaten run has begun to repair the damage of the Blues' troubling recent blemishes. And a win today at Ipswich Town could even propel them back into the top 4 once again. Slowly but surely, the injury crisis is beginning to ease, and as key players begin to refine their fitness and form, so it's unsurprisingly coincided in an upturn in performance. The Blues are renowned for reaching their peak in the second half of the season. The current shoots of recovery are a strong indication that the Blues' winning machine is starting to click smoothly back into life. Well, today they face an Ipswich